It's the worst period, I think, for anybody, but especially a young woman, and particularly difficult if you have famous parents.
Jane Fonda is a name in Hollywood that has been as influential as anyone could, with her career spanning over 6 decades. During these years, she has played some roles that have attracted accolades from a lot of people due to her performance. In the midst of it all, she has also been very outspoken about causes that are very dear to her. However, her success notwithstanding, she has been caught in some shocking and insane controversies, some of which are direct results of her activism. Along with that, her life has been dotted with some tragic incidents, some of which shaped her personality. But nothing has been as shocking as the latest revelation, which made fans think that they will be losing their favorite. Join us as we throw more light on these issues. Jane Fonda was born on December 21, 1937, in New York City into an acting dynasty. Her father, Henry Fonda, had already become one of Hollywood's more popular actors in such films as The Grapes of Wrath and 12 Angry Men. Her mother, Frances Ford Seymour, was from a wealthy Canadian family and was even more of a socialite. With all the glamour of being born into such a family, Jane Fonda's childhood was hardly ideal, filled as it was with emotional distance, family tension, and tragedy. The relationship that Jane shared with her father was mainly strained. Henry Fonda was quite reserved and emotionally withdrawn. To him, it didn't come easily to show affection or be vulnerable. He was often described as distant, especially with his children. This emotional gap tore deep into Jane, who, more than anything, needed her father's appreciation and recognition. Henry's stoicism, perhaps nurtured by his Midwestern upbringing and personal experiences, created a tough environment in the house. Often Jane could not match the expectations set forth by her father, and their relationship remained fractured through much of her early life. On the other hand, her mother, Frances, was plagued with mental problems that gradually increased with time. Frances had spent most of Jane's childhood in and out of psychiatric institutions due to depression and anxiety. In 1950, tragedy struck when Jane was just 12. Frances Ford Seymour took her own life while she was in a mental institution. This was a terrible loss for young Jane, who was initially told that her mother had died of a heart attack. It was only years later that she was told the truth that her mother had taken her life, a painful addition to the young girl's emotional trauma. This tragedy formed the early life of Fonda, who for many years would struggle with identity, self-worth, and abandonment problems. The strain she felt in her relationship with her father and the loss of a mother informed much of her later activism, acting career, and personal development. Sometimes Jane would even go so far as to say that in order to survive the pain of that incident, she had developed a hard shell, while feeling horribly insecure on the inside. Despite all of these challenges, Jane Fonda received a far more complete education than most young women of her generation, a reflection of the high expectations that engulfed her family. She attended Greenwich Academy in Connecticut and then the Emma Willard School in Troy, New York, probably the best girls-only boarding school in the country. She then went to Vassar College, an excellent liberal arts college for women, though she was to stay only 2 years. Then, looking for a different direction, she had the chance to live for a period of time in Paris, studying art, which became quite an experience for her. Finally, returning to the U.S. to study acting just as her father did before her, she began her own legendary career. During the early years of her career, Jane Fonda was a searching professional, building her way up to stardom, which marked a time when she yearned for both a personal and professional identity. The talented star first tried modeling before becoming a legendary actress. With her tall, slender figure and striking good looks, she found herself gracing the covers of magazines such as Vogue. For Fonda, however, modeling was never her passion. Soon she realized that wasn't the path she wanted to tread while considering the artistic legacy left by her father Henry Fonda, whose distinguished acting career loomed large in her life. Encouraged by her father, among others, Fonda began to focus on acting in the late 1950s. She studied at New York's Actors Studio under Lee Strasberg, the famous exponent of method acting. This marked the beginning of some of the most exciting and successful journeys of her career. It's not at all surprising that, with Strasberg to guide her and an innate talent to build upon, she was a truly gifted young actress from the beginning. Fonda made her screen debut in 1960 in Tall Story, in which she played a cheerleader, acting alongside Anthony Perkins. The film was light and romantic and marked her induction into Hollywood, and quickly she gained attention. Critical attention and breakthrough performances followed in the early 1960s with a series of films that included Period of Adjustment and Walk on the Wild Side, both in 1962. However, it was in the mid-1960s that Jane Fonda really began to make her name known. Among some of the more pivotal early roles was the 1965 comedy Cat Ballou, where she played a schoolteacher who gets outlawed in the Wild West. The movie turned out to be a hit at both the box office and with critics, and it placed Fonda in her niche as one of the leading ladies of Hollywood at the time. Her charm, wit, and range of emotion made her a darling to the public. Fonda's career took another giant leap at the end of the 1960s, with her starring role in Barbarella, directed by her then-husband Roger Vadim. The film got wide followership, and Fonda's performance as the fearless, futuristic heroine cemented her as a talented actor. However, she wasn't content to be pigeonholed as a glamorous actress. Fonda wanted to take on more challenging roles and engage with socially relevant projects. Her dedication to the craft was evident in the risks she took and the depth with which she dove headlong into whatever project lay before her. Arguably, one of her best and most critically acclaimed performances came in They Shoot Horses, Don't They? In 1969, a dark Depression-era drama centered around a grueling dance marathon. The raw intensity of Fonda's portrayal of Gloria Beatty netted her an Academy Award nomination and proved she was much more than just a Hollywood star. Jane Fonda's career really flowered in the 1970s. She took her first Academy Award for Best Actress in Clute in 1971, in which she played Bree Daniels, a call girl with complexity and independence, mixed up in a murder investigation. Fonda gave both dedication and force to her acting performance, once again verifying her philosophy and pledge to multidimensional portrayals. Fonda often prepared with immense detail for each role and chose projects that aligned with her personal and political values. By the mid-1970s, Jane Fonda had finally completed a transformation from a promising young actress to a glittering Hollywood star with several diverse films showing her range, dedication, and passion for her craft. On the other hand, Jane Fonda's love life has been as colorful and complex as her career. Throughout her life, she had a number of high-profile relationships and marriages that each left an indelible mark on her personal and professional growth. Often, her relationships have been informed by her changing identity, political activism, and profound need for personal fulfillment. In 1965, Fonda married her first husband, the French director Roger Vadim. He was known for directing and God-Created Woman. At the time, Fonda was in her mid-20s. She was enchanted by Vadim's artistic sensibilities, and their relationship was very adventurous. He directed her in the sci-fi classic Barbarella, which became an iconic film of the 1960s. However, the marriage was stormy. Vadim was known to be an unconventional man in relation to relationships, and Fonda would further say his life choices, including infidelity and an open marriage, created tension between them. They had one child together, a daughter named Vanessa, before their marriage ended in divorce in 1973. From the time Fonda divorced Vadim onward, her life was consumed by political activism. It was during this time that she met Tom Hayden, a prominent activist and politician. In 1973, he and Fonda married. Their union was truly a meeting of minds concerning social and political issues. She was heavily involved with the anti-Vietnam War movement, and he was a perfect match for her ideals. In 1973, they had a son, Troy Garrity, and during the course of the marriage, Fonda also adopted a second daughter, Mary Luana Williams. The shared interest in activism and the demands of public life, however, took a toll on their personal life. While this couple collaborated on many political projects, including huge financial support provided by Fonda for Hayden's campaigns, the marriage experienced personal differences and other external pressures. They divorced in 1990 after 17 years of marriage. Jane Fonda's third marriage was to media mogul Ted Turner, the founder of CNN, in 1991. It was quite a whirlwind and romantic from the very start of her relationship with him, as he quite literally swept her off her feet. She was charmed by the vivacious personality of Turner, and they both enjoyed each other. However, their marriage finally ended due to the way their personalities and priorities clashed. Fonda's feminist sentiment ran in conflict with the more traditionalist thoughts of Turner. Furthermore, Fonda said she had to sacrifice parts of her personality within this relationship, which is another issue that bred their separation. They divorced in 2001 after a whole decade of marriage. Throughout all her relationships, Jane Fonda shared a lot of problems that became evident through the contradiction of personal growth and the demands of her personal life. In fact, she herself has talked candidly about how, through a lot of her life, she found herself in need of molding herself to fit the expectations of the men she was with. Only later in time did she learn the value of insisting on her own identity. In the end, her relationships were passionate and influential, yet repeatedly ended in breakup after breakup as she continued finding herself and her personal authenticity. These days, Fonda reflects on her marriages as being an important part of her growth. Outside the troubles of her marriages and the demands of her career, Fonda has been deeply involved with issues regarding social justice and anti-war efforts, though not without significant controversy. Fonda became a very active campaigner in the 1960s. During this period, the U.S. was deeply involved in the Vietnam War. She would become an outspoken critic of the war during that era, joining anti-war protests and espousing radical political causes. The most notorious incident in her activism came in 1972 when, on behalf of a peace campaign, she paid a visit to North Vietnam. It was during this visit that she had herself photographed sitting on an anti-aircraft gun used to shoot down American planes. The resulting iconic image gave her the nickname Hanoi Jane and engendered an uproar of outrage in the United States. This photo was, and continues to be, seen as treasonous by many Americans, especially the veterans. Fonda would later apologize for the photo, describing it as a mistake. For decades, the controversy lingered on. Even today, the incident is remembered very often as one of the salient moments of her activism, and public opinion about her actions during the Vietnam War remains sharply divided. Apart from anti-war activism, Fonda was very involved in almost all of the feminist and civil rights movements. She amply became vocal on women's rights, reproductive rights, and the rights of Native Americans. Fonda also made sure her voice was heard on environmental issues too, becoming quite vocal on climate change and fossil fuel industries. Much of her activism has been interwoven with her personal growth and shifting politics as she moved from anti-war efforts to more general social justice and environmental causes. Fonda's activism has also placed her in some crazy situations. In 1970, while on her way through Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, she was arrested on suspicion of drug possession. Customs officers confiscated a small bag of pills from her, which they claimed were illicit drugs. However, Fonda insisted that those were just vitamins prescribed by her doctor. She was proven to be right, and the charges were later dismissed when it was verified that the pills were, in fact, vitamins. This arrest has been thought to be targeted due to her outspoken nature. Throughout her life, Jane Fonda has remained proudly true to her causes, no matter the cost. She has been arrested several times while protesting over issues like the climate crisis in Washington, D.C. in 2019. Fonda founded Fire Drill Fridays, weekly protests to bring awareness to the climate crisis, which has resulted in a slew of high-profile arrests. As if all these were enough, at the peak of Jane Fonda's active career and endless activism, there was a personal battle that appeared before her and which made her future gloomy. She was diagnosed with cancer. In 2010, Fonda announced she was diagnosed with breast cancer. While she had given her life to a career and the causes of politics in many ways for decades, this diagnosis turned her inside out to confront the fact of mortality and health in a way she had not done before. News of her having breast cancer initially seemed to throw her off balance, as cancer is a fearful and unpredictable disease. To a woman who has been in control of her life, career, and choices, facing cancer raises an uncertainty she has rarely felt. The possibility of the spread of this disease was huge, getting worse and threatening to remove her not just from view, but from life itself. However, Fonda's fortunes changed when doctors discovered the tumor was localized, meaning it hadn't spread to other parts of her body. Of course, this was a much better prognosis than she had initially feared. Her medical team wasted no time, and in November 2010, she underwent surgery to remove the cancerous tumor. The surgery was successful in that the doctors were able to remove the tumor, thus reducing the chances of return or metastasis of this cancer. It was this news that gave a new ray of hope and respite to Fonda, her family, and her fans. Even though surgery had successfully saved her from chemotherapy or radiation, cancer became a turning point in her life. She seemed to recognize just how fragile she was and that she should probably take care of herself. Fonda simply took all the time she needed to retreat from the limelight and get better, taking time for self-care. It was a moment when she reassessed the choices between her public life and her personal life. While Fonda had been advocating fitness and healthy lifestyles for many decades and pioneered the workout movement of the 1980s, her personal health crisis at that time seemed to ironically underline the very message she had propagated for such a long time. Post-surgery, she went on to adopt an even more committed attitude toward health maintenance through the practice of an integrated lifestyle that combined mental and physical well-being. However, the cancer scare also made Fonda much more introspective about her career and personal life choices. She spoke publicly about having had cancer and urged others to take responsibility for their health by having regular checkups and being intentional in their medical care. She became an advocate for cancer awareness, using her platform to spread the message of early detection and prevention. The cancer battle was also a triumph for Fonda. As her cancer went into remission and her health improved, she gradually returned to acting, philanthropy, and activism, continuing to inspire others with strength and perseverance. Confronting the illness head-on, Fonda indeed emerged, finding her life once again and returning to the public sphere with a different sense of resolve and determination. For her achievements in the industry, Jane Fonda has certainly had one of the longest, most varied careers in film and television. Her career is marked with a series of recognitions and awards for her talents. She won 2 Academy Awards for Best Actress for The Clute, where she took on the role of a complex call girl, and also in 1978 for her performance in Coming Home, an Oscar-winning film dealing with the Vietnam War and its influence on returning veterans. The sensitive and varied characterizations of these roles undoubtedly made her stand among the ranks of one of the best performers of her generation. Aside from the Oscars, Fonda has won numerous Golden Globe Awards, including many nominations for BAFTA and Emmy Awards. Indeed, her work in television, notably in The Dollmaker, won her a 1984 Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Limited Series. Her career resurgence in recent years, most noticeably with her work on the popular series Grace and Frankie, has brought further accolades and new generations of fans. Other than being an actress, Fonda made her influence reach as far as the field of fitness with her workout tapes, which was a cultural phenomenon of the 1980s that popularized home fitness and set trends. Fonda's legacy hasn't just been about awards. She is also known for groundbreaking activism and frank political opinions. For years, she had been counted among those who use their platform to voice an opinion on important social and political issues. She is one of today's Hollywood icons in the space of activism. With a career spanning over 6 decades, she definitely deserves her flowers. Hope you enjoyed the video. Join us on future uploads as we unravel more about your favorite celebrities. See you in the next one.